In this video, I'm going to alert you to some of the challenges that we're beginning to see in the global shipping supply chain, some exceptionally provocative moves from China, and how the world is gearing up for what could be a significant Ukrainian offensive. And there are several key takeaways and lessons that we need to learn from Hurricane Beryl, because what we saw with that is just the beginning of what might be the worst season of storms that you and I can ever remember. We're also going to have another giveaway in this video, and we'll announce the winner of our last giveaway, so you'll want to stick around to find out how you can be eligible for that. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, periodically, I feel that it's essential to do one of these news-like segments to really try to assess some of the worldwide threats that we see and try to drill down to understand how they might impact us, though those conflicts may be thousands and thousands of miles away from where we live. And these segments they're meant to empower you with the information and knowledge that you need to really make the best decision on how you're going to prepare. Now, that being said, here's what I think you need to know and consider to prepare for your future. Also, at the end of the video, I'll update you on some of the things that I'm doing to stay prepared and give an update on the city prepping property that I'm trying to secure, so definitely stick around for that. Shipping news. The Houthis are now effectively deploying some explosive drone boat attacks on merchant vessels attempting to transit the Red Sea. And their attacks on any vessels they perceived as aligned with either Israel or the West are driving up insurance premiums on all merchant vessels attempting to take this route. Now, the alternative to reach EU nations involves going all the way around the continent of Africa, which significantly raises costs due to fuel alone. One group of cargo vessels not suffering from the insurance rate increases are Chinese vessels. And this is likely tied not to China's stance on Israel, but to the growing partnership between Russia, Iran, and China. Now, the Houthis receive all of their material, their training, their support, their logistical guidance and targeting from Iran. And there's an alarming downward trend in global shipping, and the Houthis are just one part of it. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details in this video because I'll be releasing one next week that's going to go into a much deeper dive into over a dozen problems that we see with the global shipping supply chain right now that are going to begin to impact the cost of pretty much everything. Now, in that video, I'm going to touch upon the Houthis, but I really want to focus on what you should expect in the future and how you can prepare to survive it. And this is not a situation that I see improving in any way in the future, and you're going to feel the impact no matter where you live. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe to this channel to be alerted when that video comes out. China. China is boldly attempting to assert its dominance on the global stage, potentially bylining with Russia in the Ukrainian conflict, escalating tensions in the South China Sea, or sparking conflict in the Arctic. Now, recently, Chinese troops were deployed to Europe for 11 days of war games in Belarus, a nation that wholeheartedly supports Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And these exercises, just miles from NATO member Poland, coincide with NATO's summit in Washington, where China was labeled a decisive enabler of Russia's aggression. The joint military drills, named Falcon Assault, underscore the deepening ties between China, Russia, and Belarus and are seen as a direct challenge to NATO. Now, Belarus has recently joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which I covered extensively in last week's news segment, further aligning with China and Russia against Western influence. Now, NATO's final communique, approved by the 32 NATO members at the summit in Washington, really highlights concerns about China's expanding nuclear arsenal, its role in supporting Russia's military efforts, and the exchange of materials that could be used by Russia in its war efforts. And the alliance urged China to cease its material and political support for Russia, accusing Beijing of enabling the conflict through a no-limits partnership with Moscow. Now, despite China's denial of direct military aid to Russia, its strong trade ties and provisions of dual-use materials to Russia's defense sector has raised alarms. As I covered in a much earlier video, there was also the incident of China shipping what they were calling hunting rifles to China, which really amounted to a shipment of assault weapons and body armor, which Russia immediately used in its supply to its troops in Ukraine. Now, China's foreign ministry dismissed NATO's accusations, condemning the alliance's increasing focus on Asia and its Cold War mentality. The China embassy in Washington reiterated that China does not provide weapons to Russia and maintains transparent trade practices. However, NATO's clear stance marks a significant diplomatic shift, signaling a united front among Euro-Atlantic and Asia-Pacific nations against China's influence. As China conducts joint exercises in Belarus, NATO's Indo-Pacific partners, including Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea, they deepen their cooperation with the alliance. And not all the member states of NATO support the anti-China stance. Turkey tends to try to ride both sides of the fence, as we know, and most recently, Hungary's foreign minister expressed that his country would not support NATO becoming an anti-China bloc. Nevertheless, there is growing collective NATO concern over China's military ambitions, obviously their presence in Belarus, and the overall impact of global security, especially in regions like Ukraine, the South China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, and the Arctic. Now, China's military activities and strategic alliance suggest a broader intention to challenge the current world order, raising the potential for heightened global conflicts in multiple regions. And just having troops deployed, even for military exercises so close to conflict zones and bordering countries, is really like storing a powder keg next to the campfire. Now, needless to say, it's something that we're all going to be watching closely to keep you informed on any developments. So what do you think? Should NATO nations be worried about future Chinese military partnerships with Russia? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks to Jackery for sponsoring this YouTube ad-free video. When it comes to being able to power critical devices after the grid goes down, having a backup power source has become a matter of paramount importance. Jackery's 2000 Plus, combined with solar panels, can allow you to power devices for days during power outages. It can output 3000 watts continuously with its 25 amp plug-in, and when tied together with 2 units, it produces 6000 watts. Now, connected to a transfer switch, you can power items in your home, such as cooking pots, fans, electric heaters, refrigerators, and other high-power appliances. It also has lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry that can handle 4000 charge cycles or 10 years of daily use. Possesses a UPS functionality, switching over in under 20 milliseconds, and can be controlled remotely via their app, and also has a 5-year warranty. It can be expanded up to 24 kilowatt hours of capacity and can charge from an AC source from 0 to 80% in 100 minutes. Jackery has built a reputable brand that has won multiple awards over the years, so if you're interested in checking out this unit, I'll post a link in the description and comments section below. Ukraine. When it comes to NATO nations, Ukraine is probably the most worried. Ukrainian President Zelensky is making the rounds and preparing for a greater offense and defense in the war despite any possible U.S. presidential election outcome and any wavering support that might result from that. Zelensky met House Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and other senators behind closed doors as the 32 NATO members gathered across town, crafting a summit declaration that stopped short of a full invitation for Ukraine to join the alliance. Now, this is the same NATO meeting I mentioned earlier that resulted in one of their most strongly worded condemnations of China. And it's clear that with all the nations green-lighting the use of their weapons for Ukraine to attack Russia across their border in the meetings with congressional NATO leaders, the West is gearing up to allow Ukraine to do whatever it needs to do despite any wavering support that may come from citizens, governments, or shifts in administrations. And with this renewed momentum, Ukraine appears poised to deliver a significant counteroffensive against Russian forces. And the increased support from NATO allies, coupled with U.S. permitting the use of long-range weapons, positions Ukraine to strike more effectively at Russian military targets deep into Russian territory. Now, Ukraine appears ready to expand its operations and utilize advanced weaponry to counter Russian aggression more robustly. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the next few months as these pieces of the puzzle continue to fall into place. The West is really setting the stage for Ukraine to escalate its independent military efforts, signaling a unified front against Russian expansionism. And with substantial aid packages, advanced fighter jets like the F-16s, and the strategic deployment of NATO resources, Ukraine's capacity to conduct significant military operations has been markedly enhanced. And these developments, alongside NATO's strong condemnation of Russia and its pledge of continued support, really indicate that Ukraine is not only on the verge of hitting back, but is also backed by a coalition ready to support its long-term security and sovereignty. So what do you think? Is Ukraine about to make a bold move with the West's collective blessing? Will that back Putin into a corner, or will this war just continue to seemingly go forever? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Giveaway. For this week, we're going to give away a 2-story fire escape rope ladder. All you have to do to participate in the giveaway is just simply comment on this video, give it a thumbs up, and complete the giveaway form linked in the description section below. And this information will only be accessible to City Prepping, but using a random selection tool, we're going to choose a winner from the comments, and we're going to reach out to you via email that you provide on the submitted form. So congratulations to our last giveaway winner for the fire and waterproof document bag, Rhonda Vellicute. We'll get that sent to you right away. Barrel. You'd be making a mistake if you thought you didn't need to take note and prepare for a natural disaster even though it's thousands of miles away from you. That's really evident this week as remnants of Hurricane Beryl have swept across Vermont over 2,000 miles from where it initially made landfall in Texas, resulting in significant flooding and a few deaths. Now, 2 million people in Texas alone lost power, and 500,000 people in Houston won't have power restored until sometimes next week. Now, Hurricane Beryl was the largest storm to kick off a June hurricane season in recorded history. And the long-lived storm traveled more than 6,000 miles and made 3 landfalls. Its last landfall swept across the United States, bringing flash flooding from the lower and mid-Mississippi region to the Great Lakes and the East Coast. Now, the remnants have brought tornadoes, extremely heavy rainfall, and high winds to multiple states. And if there's one piece of advice that I could impart to you, it would be not to ignore weather or disaster reports, even when the initial impact zone is thousands of miles away. Remember the Canadian fires last year that brought choking and blinding smoke to cities on the East Coast? We're going to likely see that same thing this year. And that disaster was hundreds of miles away from the millions of people that were impacted. And the same applies to Hurricane Beryl. If you were unaffected on the outskirts, are you prepared for the next hurricane along with a similar path but maybe a little further east or west? Will you be ready when the roads are out or the power goes out or when people evacuate your area from the impacted zones? Some people prepare for immediate disasters, some for possible disasters, and some for the fallout of disasters, even though they are far from the initial disaster zone. Let Hurricane Beryl really serve as a cautionary tale to try to inform you on your prepping decisions. First, it is the first storm of what may be of many more to come. And second, the intensity and destruction, it can be felt thousands of miles from the area receiving all the press coverage. And finally, it really underscores the importance of prepping your basics no matter where you live. It's not really a matter of if the storm will directly hit you, it's the aftermath that you might struggle to survive. The reality is that cities and states are often slow to respond to and address the problems that arise from natural disasters. And Houston is just one example. How many times has the city of Houston appeared in your news feed in recent years due to excessive rains, flooding, or power outages? If your city is slow to address infrastructure or drainage issues that you are already aware of, you should plan on securing your own future by preparing for the worst now. Don't rely on the government to try to rescue you or fix known problems ahead of the inevitable storm. So what do you think? Did you feel the effects of Hurricane Beryl? What did you learn, and how are you preparing for the next storm? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me end up with this video with a few things. First of all, I've been updating y'all recently about the property that I started escrow on about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it's kind of hit a bit of a snag yesterday. We're going to find out probably today. I'm recording this on Friday morning on the 12th, so I'll probably find out by the end of today whether it's going to move forward or not. It looks like I wouldn't even give it 50-50 odds at this point. There was a major issue that we found on the house. We essentially asked the seller to fix it. It's it's a structural issue. And so the response was pound sand. So we're going to take our ball and go somewhere else if they're not willing to deal with it. So the takeaway is sometimes things don't go your way. You have to learn how to pivot, improvise, and move on. In this situation, I do have other properties lined up that we'll begin to look at, go and talk to, and potentially make offers on if this one falls through. I'll be honest, I'm a little frustrated. I really like the property, but I'm not going to get into a property situation where I go from, hey, I'm already paying a premium price on this. Now I get to invest a lot more money to try to fix things that should not have been ignored. I'll put it that way. So anyway, all that to say, land will come. There's options that I'm seeing in the market in our area. The market's going a little soft here recently, kind of hit a peak, and we're starting to see things sit and actually come down. So I would say, hasn't fully gone to a buyer's market yet, but you're seeing an equalization where it's been heavily seller for a long time. We're kind of seeing that playing field level out a little. So Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that, but I'm staying encouraged through it all. And speaking of staying encouraged, as always, I try to end these videos on an encouraging note. I recently spoke with another YouTube channel that's not in the prepping space. It's somebody that I'll probably bring on as a guest in the future. Very intelligent individual. She's got a scientific background like myself, PhD, I believe, and her career path has taken her on this journey of learning risk assessment and trying to help her community prepare for these inevitable issues that we're seeing coming on the horizon. And so it was very interesting having the communication with her and seeing the alignment of a desire, kind of like my channel, to educate, to train, to stay apolitical, to stay out of the drama and just give you information so you can make decisions on how you'll prepare and that you can, see what's coming on the horizon and get ready. Why do I bring that up? It's really fascinating because, again, so much of what I've seen over the years is that we fixate on the doom and gloom, right? We want to see it's part of us, right? We're kind of wired, I think, as preppers. We gravitate toward bad news. And I have to catch myself all the time and reel myself in and say, okay, yes, there are issues coming on the horizon. Do I believe we have time to prepare? Yes. I'm like a broken record in saying this. The best time to prepare is what, gang? 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The second best time is when? Today. So I'm saying that because things are going up in price. Gear. I bought gear that I go on Amazon. I bought some gear 2 years ago, and I've gone back to reorder some of it. It has doubled in price. And I'm just pieces of plastic. It just blows my mind. This is the timeline that we're in. She and I were talking about areas that will probably become very popular in the not so distant future to move to mitigate a lot of these risks that we're seeing with natural disasters. And one of her friends said, hey, that area is it's become a very expensive area to live. And her response was, it's going to be what you're seeing now is cheap in comparison to what you're going to see in a few years. It's the same way it was cheap a few years ago. It's gotten more expensive as people have gone there. Why am I saying that? Because we have time, and the time is now. And again, I'm not suggesting that something radical is going to happen tomorrow, but we're all in the same timeline. We see what's happening. We see the issues in the world. We see these global escalation, geopolitical situations escalate. We're seeing these natural disasters that are increasing in frequency, and that will have, profound impacts on every aspect of our life, including, and a very important one, food production and cost. And that was a video that we just recently did. We're in this moment where, again, I think a lot of people are waking up to the reality. And so we as preppers in this community, again, I encourage you, stay focused, stay on track, don't get discouraged. Again, I know it seems like there's always a new threat that's rolling out, but stay on track. You're on the right path. And my encouragement is, if you're watching this video and you're like, hey, I don't know, I'm limited on finances, or I've achieved my goals or whatever, trying to encourage you guys, take care of your health. I personally have dropped about 30 pounds over since last August, however long that is, 10 months or so, 9 months. But the key is I feel better, I'm healthier, my diet has changed radically, I'm not eating processed food, sugars. And I'll be doing some videos here in a couple of weeks documenting that journey and how I got to that point to, provide you with useful tools. We did a whole video series back at the beginning of January, and if you want to go check those out. But the reason I'm saying this is take care of your health. The things that we're seeing on the horizon, and she and I were discussing this yesterday, our healthcare system right now is very expensive, but it's likely, and it will only get more expensive. So take care of your health now to mitigate those future problems in the future. Let me finish by saying this. This summer, it's going to break a lot of records, from storm intensity and frequency to temperatures and duration of heat domes. We're going to see more of this. The time to prepare where you are is right now. Again, let me say that. Take advantage of this time. So my encouragement to you now is, after watching this video, I'm going to put 2 videos up here on the side of the screen. One is how to survive a summer power outage, and my other video comparing solar generators to traditional generators. You definitely want to get that information to help you decide how you're going to prepare this summer. Again, I'll drop links to both of those in the description and comment section below. As always, stay safe out there.